Good morning.
Good morning.
Please stand.
Oh boy.
If you'll repeat after me, say what I say and do what I do. Mary had a little lamb.
Mary had a little lamb.
It grew to be a sheep.
It grew to be a sheep.
It attended Sales Educators Academy and died from lack of sleep. You can be seated. Thank you very much. That's what you call
Just be thankful we're not handing out spaghetti and marshmallows.
My name is Wayne Slough. I'm with Virginia Commonwealth University, interim chair and assistant professor.
Dr. Dale, I'm the associate, Anita Dale from Purdue University. I'm the director of the Center for Professional Selling and teach negotiating.
Joe Kehoe, I'm the director of the Sales Center at St. Ambrose University in Davenport, Iowa.
We are going to be team facilitating a group discussion about how to team facilitate a group discussion. All right. We all recognize, our students may not, how critically important a skill facilitating a discussion is, internally in their own company or externally, for example, in a sales or sales management role. How to generate, and get active participation in a group discussion. All right, so think of the situations where that will be important. In a selling role, presenting a capabilities presentation, or making the pitch where you're asking for the business, as two external examples. Internal examples, sales managers facilitating a training session, presenting a new product or service that the company's about to roll out. But being able to get that kind of discussion. Our bias is that this is not only a critically important skill for our students to learn, but it's really not taught. We found it ironic this morning when Lef and Pat were talking about the ICSC and this case competition. The reason I mentioned that, what I shared with my partners yesterday was, I have students facilitate a group discussion as a team of a case in our sales course. They struggle with it, they're uncomfortable with it, they don't have the skills to do it, and that's why I do it, to help them learn how to facilitate a discussion. Our presentation will go like this. In a moment, Anita is going to share with you some of the assumptions that we make about students that come into a classroom who are about to do this. All right, Joe will talk to you about characteristics of an effective team group facilitator. All right, I'll wrap up by talking about what are some of the mileposts or success factors that we would see in a session in any of those contexts where an effective group discussion has been team facilitated. Here's the team, you're the group, right? So we hope to model this with your help in how to give you the lesson of how to do this for your students. We'll wrap up with a summary. Joe will do a summary of our session. Anita will have a few, she'll manage your questions and we'll try to field with answers. So let's not take any more time. Anita, if you would go right into assumptions.
Assumptions. What are some of the key assumptions when you have students coming into a presentation? What are some of the key assumptions you would offer that they should expect from their audience members, the students who they are facilitating a discussion with? One of the first ones we came up with?
Knowledge, priority.
Preparedness.
We hope.
We hope that's what we are expecting. Yeah. We presume they've done that.
James.
Variety of levels of interest in participating.
Right.
It's going to be all over the map.
Next.
Perhaps that they are all open to new ideas.
Open to new ideas. Openness.
Next.
That they want a grade.
Right.
That they want a grade.
Right. That they care about it. They not only care about the grade. Richard.
They want to be there.
We hope, we assume, right? Sometimes we know differently. We sometimes know differently about all these things.
So when we're thinking about the assumptions we make as we facilitate role plays or any scenario, we know that there are going to be people who come to that having thought about it, having prepared for it, having done some background reading, and they're sitting right next to the guy who threw sweatpants on this morning and just barely made it to class and hasn't even downloaded the course materials yet. There are going to be people in sales calls. Somebody's really vested in this because they see the value this could offer to them as a sales rep. Others, just going to be another expense, another fly-through, it's never going to stick. Openness. Some people decided before they ever came whether it's good or not. They want a grade, so they have something invested in an outcome. They care. Some don't care. And you've got to be thoughtful about that.
One more would be their level of standing up in front of the class.
Exactly. So, and being present, right.
Just took out my partner. You don't want to do that to your team case presenter. Sorry.
I was going to do my Steve Martin fall, but
The one thing we didn't write on here was distractions. As you're facilitating a discussion, very likely you're going to have this going on, the computers are up, people are working on presentations for their next class, so the level of distraction amongst the people who you are trying to elicit participation varies widely. So, next we're going to talk about the qualities of a good facilitator.
A good, if I may, excuse me, a good team group facilitator. Team group. Go.
so we have these assumptions, but there's maybe one other, and that's the student's perception of themselves, okay? We're in the change business. We don't want anyone to be exactly the same tomorrow after they've taken the class as they are when they entered, okay? So what I'd like some help from you on is give me a metaphor for professional salesperson. Everybody know what a metaphor is? An as or an if, okay?
Physician.
Pardon?
Physician.
Excellent. Physician?
Really good.
We've all heard problem solver, okay? All right, so problem solver.
Yeah,
Okay.
and also trusted advisor. We've heard those things so many times. It's too much.
Car mechanic.
Pardon? Car mechanic? Yeah, great.
Warrior. Magician.
General.
Warrior.
Field marshal.
Those are all really good, especially physician. We associate physician with dollar signs, green. I have another one I'd like to submit to you, a chain of them. Quarterback, okay?
That's a good one.
Okay.
Or,
How about director of a play? How about an orchestra leader? Trying to get a bunch of disparate sounds to make a symphony. Point guard, okay? So, let's talk about quarterback, physician, consultant, trusted advisor, auto mechanic, what all these people, what do?
Diagnose.
They what?
Diagnose or lead the
Okay,
field.
well, they diagnose for sure.
Yeah, you might,
What?
they listen,
Listings?
pay attention to
Okay, listening.
you might think about, if I may, Joe, what those different people or roles have in common.
Yeah.
Have in
Okay.
common.
they listen.
They adapt to the
They
situation.
They what?
Adapt to the situation.
Okay, adapt.
They lead.
Coordinate,
Okay.
facilitate.
Guide, coordinate, facilitate. Yeah.
They provide a solution.
You guys are smart.
Okay.
How about this? What do they bring out in others?
Yeah, they're all buddies.
What do they bring out in others? Think of the quarterback, the orchestra
Hopefully
leader,
the best in them.
the best.
Okay.
Well,
Eh.
another one should be coach.
Coach. Okay. Good.
They have a little.
But the point of all of this is right here. That's what salespeople do. They facilitate. Okay, they bring out the best in others. They coach. They diagnose. They make people well.
They mentor.
Okay. So what are the characteristics of really good facilitators? Somebody mentioned listen earlier, so that's a great characteristic. Yeah.
They ask questions.
Okay.
They encourage.
They do.
Pardon?
They care.
Care. Okay. So empathy. Okay.
They care about what?
They're not just there to sell you something. We're talking about a salesperson. They want to know what the problem is, what those pain points are, and how we can work together
To take the buyer to a better place.
Yeah, they actually
Solve their
Okay.
problem, meet their objective. Right.
I would add. Yeah, Rich.
Encourage.
Okay.
Encourage?
Yeah.
Yeah, they do. Encourage what or who?
They encourage good performance.
Right.
They encourage the person to be non-quiet.
How about the salesperson team facilitating a group discussion with a team of buyers? To your point of encourage, what is that salesperson encouraging in that scenario?
They're encouraging to open up their pain problems. Awareness.
Okay.
Yeah.
What else are they encouraging? If they've opened up their pain problems, those are now on the floor. Yeah.
Self-solution. Well, they also
And those solutions would then encourage what?
Improvement.
they encourage,
And think of business objectives that encouragement of those solutions would bring about. What is now encouraged? Think higher order kind of outcomes.
Win-win.
Yeah, profitability, productivity, savings, etc.
What about making sure all the right people are in the room? Okay. We talked about a complex sale earlier. It's complex because there are a lot of different influences. We can't guarantee just because we invite them that they're going to show up. So we got to make sure that they understand that there's going to be something in this meeting for them. Right? So we're selling people to come to yet another meeting. Sales are down, meetings are up. Okay, come to another meeting. What else? A really good facilitator. Do they let go?
communication.
Okay, communication. If you're facilitating the meeting, do you want to control the room? Do you want to run the room? You want to do that, but you want to be democratic. You want to make sure that everyone who's there is contributing. Pat, you haven't said anything for 5 minutes. That's very unusual. So be thinking.
Well, I think that there's a couple different roles. One, at some point, maybe they want it to be very open and more of a brainstorm, but at some point, they have to start channeling the energy towards a specific.
Precisely. Okay, we have an objective in mind here, so there needs to be an agenda. It can be loose, but we begin with the end in mind, as Covey says, right? I mean, we don't want to just jabber for for a while.
Richard, organised.
Yep.
You can organise and have your game plan to start facilitating. Prepare. So you've got to start, middle, and finish. So where are we right now?
You got it. So you are organized, you've got that roadmap, but also within that, using one of the primary words that illustrate a lesson for us over the past 3 days, began with an A. We have to be, we got to adapt within that plan. If you stop and think about the best facilitators you've ever seen, they've got the ability to do that, turn on a dime, and whereas strong presenters, strong orchestra leaders, quarterbacks, what have you, sometimes will demonstrate or visibly being in control. They're able to do that by letting the others think they are in control. What a skill that would be for our students to develop, right? Yes?
They model the behavior that you're trying to see.
Do they contingency plan? And you don't want to have a meeting and have bad surprises. You only want good surprises.
Yeah, I think that's part of adapting, right? You must always be prepared to have that contingency plan. And I'm thinking the facilitator has the ability to not only draw out from people, different people, right, what their thoughts are, their ideas are, but also to get them to collaborate together, right? To collaborate and work together.
Not easily done in every
No.
situation.
And ultimately, so what are we doing when we take a bunch of stuff from around the room and we're bringing it together? We're mixing it. We got an ingredient here, an ingredient there, an ingredient there. We have a tuba here, a trumpet there, a drum there. It gets what? What?
Orchestrated,
Okay.
collaborated.
Okay. How about synthesize? Okay. It comes together. That's how we want salespeople thinking about themselves. Quarterbacks, physicians, consultants, synthesizers, orchestrating all the assets of their company in behalf of their customers' wants and needs. That's what we want them to do. And that's what has to happen in this meeting. So, as we've been talking, the metaphor for the salesperson might actually be the facilitator. We are attempting to facilitate a better life, less pain, more abundance, whatever it is, that's what we do. And if you don't want to be doing that, then don't be taking these courses. If you don't want to be fundamentally changed, and at our place, we refer to it as servant leadership. A salesperson has to have some element of the customer's benefit in mind. Servant leader, think Friday Night Lights, okay? The coach in Friday Night Lights. He wanted that terrible quarterback to lead them someplace. That's how we want them thinking about themselves. Unless they've made the commitment to be fundamentally different than what they were, there's no point in doing any of this. So,
I would hitchhike, if I may, on something that Joe has said to that point. While I agree with him for the most part, what I tell my students is if you don't want to do this, or aren't comfortable doing this, or aren't prepared to learn this, those are the very reasons you should be. Because when you get into industry, guess what? This shows up on your desk. Your boss comes in, your customer changes course, what have you, and you have got to be able to deliver in real time and engendering discussion, perhaps with members of your own team, whether it's externally or internally. That's the very reason you will not be able to escape this in business and industry. You will be called to do it, you will be tasked with doing it, and those who do it well will quickly elevate and get positions of greater authority and responsibility and earning power.
that's why to sell is human. If you can't sell, you're going to be pretty static in your life. Moving on.
So in the time we have remaining, so what we've attempted to do in our 15 minutes is try to model, with your help, right, team facilitating a group discussion. And we've tried to give examples of where that would have merit for our soon-to-be graduates in the marketplace. What I would ask us all to do now is some brainstorming, and we'll develop another list to identify what a successfully team-led group discussion looks like. What are some markers that we would be able, if we could freeze the camera or roll it back and play it again, how would we know a group discussion that was team facilitated was successful? What are some words or phrases that would describe that was well done? And it can be in any context. Selling, seller-buyer, an internal training session. We just know that, man, that was well orchestrated and well team facilitated.
So that you have something to execute.
Okay, so going forward, there's something to execute? Okay. So we might say we've created our next agenda.
Yeah, an executable agenda.
Right. We've now got an advance.
We talk, and we never execute anything. So
Right.
in a good group, you facilitate it at the end if you have something to execute. And that is the
Marching
problem
orders.
with a lot of managers. They talk, and they never execute anything.
Right.
You know, that
Marching
happens
orders.
in academia too.
Now get out of town. Really?
Tell me about the shock I received.
All right, so what else? What's another?
It's the agreement. We agree to do something.
Okay. We can call it an agreement, we can call it a deal, we can call it an action plan, we can call it whatever. Yes,
The level of engagement and participation from the audience?
was high.
Right.
So think about our marshmallow challenge yesterday, and as the clock wound down, the engagement level. So if we could walk out of whatever the context is, and there's that level of engagement, right? The analogy is you've heard before you should stop eating when you're just a little bit hungry, you still want more. If we could create that in a facilitated session, how great would that be? As opposed to, and we recognize, by the way, we're the last thing between you and lunch.
We're running out of time.
Right? Any other?
One outcome might be where you establish a common language, or clarified goals, or clarified what the what the needs are for the group.
Okay. So in just a moment, we're going to conduct a summary of this discussion. So maybe that will model what you're talking about. You be the judge. You be the judge. Any final thoughts on what a team facilitated group discussion might look like?
Well, I think certainly when we got together to do this exercise, a sense of not only just a sense of unity, but just a sense that our thoughts were heard, that we were, everyone heard what we had to say.
Right.
And so to really feel like a team, that we did this as a team, and I know I think we all feel the same way as four of us, that our thoughts were all heard. And so we all felt that we contributed. I think that sense of what I had to say mattered.
Right.
And it was taken into consideration, and that we all contributed.
Thank you, Micheline. How important is that, and how often have we all seen, whether it's in academia or in industry, what we saw was the antithesis of that, just the opposite of that.
Correct.
All right, well, thank you for your participation. So
One more point.
just
to
watch
get
the
back
clock.
to the execution issue. What happens when people are really heavily invested? Execution is a lot more passionate.
Absolutely.
It's a lot more effective. Okay? So it's like a force multiplier. Sorry, boss.
No, that's quite all right. So what we'll do now is let Joe take a few minutes just to kind of summarize our discussion, and then Anita will field your questions.
Are you kidding
Joe.
me? We've finished.
So,
We didn't leave with 5 minutes left on your time, sir.
we want our students to feel like, to raise their opinions of themselves, to think bigger.
That anything is possible.
Anything is possible. Position, quarterback, I don't care what the metaphor is. It's growth, difference. Okay. How do we manifest that? A whole list. I'm not going to, read everything back, but we have certain specific skills that are important to not only have, but to develop, recognizing that when you do it the next time, you're not going to be as good as the last, or you'll be better than the last time. So we've got a whole series of skills so that we end up with, and maybe the best one came at the end when we talked about the inclusion and the having bought in the investment, which ultimately leads to the action thing, which is ultimately the goal of what we're the goal was not discussion, the goal was action. So, self-perception, application of a lot of really important skills to arrive at vital outcomes, perhaps most important of which is this whole sense of joint ownership to a direction. Then you have a chance to make something happen.
So we've got, thank you. We do have 2 minutes for questions. Who has the first
Does
one?
anyone have any questions? Or comments that they'd like to add, something we missed?
Chef and baker.
I thought about chef when we were talking about ingredients in a recipe. Mm-hmm.
How about editor?
For the new publication by
Well, if there are no more questions, we thank you for participating. It's been a pleasure to learn with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.